Okay, ladies and gents. As interesting as your conversation about C4 is.
Wait, what?
We're starting up here. This is Jim Tate. He is the Communications and Marketing Director at Southwest Minnesota State University. I met him last May when I was talking to some businesses and organizations in Marshall about supporting RTR Yearbook. And we chatted a little bit then. This fall, when I started speaking to guest speakers, he was an obvious choice of people to ask. Because communication and promoting oneself, or in this case, one's employer, is his business. And you're going to find out from Jim that it's something he's been interested in for a long time. Jim has been with us today. He spoke with our 2 juniors, and then we had kind of a roundtable discussion with the speech class. He got to play Mad Gab with us during Ramp Up, and now he's here to speak with you. So please give him your undivided and polite attention. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun time here already. I've spoken once and sat in on another class, and so thank you for your hospitality. My name is Jim Tate. I am the Director of Communications and Marketing at Southwest Minnesota State. That is a position I've had, I think I'm in my 19th year, something like that. Little background, grew up in a small town in northwest Iowa, Emmitsburg, Iowa. It's about 45 miles southeast of Okoboji area down there. And in high school, you know, you guys know that you have a subject area that you like or you're comfortable with or good at, and English was my best subject, I guess. And I back then I was an athlete, so I got somewhat interested in sports writing, and I went to the local newspaper there. The editor was a family friend, and asked if I could do some sports writing just to see if I liked it, and he agreed, let me do some stuff. So then I was going to go to Iowa State and major in journalism, and right at the 11th hour, a coach within our conference, his name was Glenn Jagodinsky from Sheldon, Iowa. They were in our conference. He got the head football job at Huron College in Huron, South Dakota, and he recruited me to do that. And I wasn't so sure about that. Looked into all the possibilities for scholarships, and the newspaper in town there is called the Daily Plainsman, and they give a scholarship every 4 years that pays for your tuition in return for work. And that just happened to come up when I was going to be an entering freshman, so I applied for that, got that. So that was kind of my, I took a gamble that 4 years of daily newspaper experience would trump a journalism degree. And so that's the route I went. And started out in sports, worked out in California for a year, and at daily papers in Iowa. During the 80s I was a sports editor in Fairmont. During the 90s I was the managing editor of the Marshall Independent, and then I moved out to the college in 1999. So that's the resume part of it. Married my high school sweetheart. Got 3 daughters. Oldest and youngest are English teachers as well. And what else can I tell you? I was talking to Robin a little bit prior to coming in this morning, or prior to the first class, and she indicated just you were having some discussions about communications and how that would be important to all aspects of your lives. How many, now primarily seniors here, right? Is that correct? Okay. How many of you are going on to college? Do you know where you're going? Did you make that decision this year or last year? This year? Okay. So did you do the traditional college fair route, or did you just go individual visits to other schools? How did you make your decision? Anybody?
I just visit one, so.
Did you?
Yeah, that was one visit and done.
You know that was your place? You just visited the one
Yeah,
school?
I just visited one school and that was the one.
Okay. Which one? You know?
Crown College.
Oh, yeah. What's the community they're in?
Just outside the Twin Cities.
Yep,
Outside of what?
just outside of St., it's like a little south of St. Cloud,
Yes.
north of Waconia.
I remember, yes.
Waconia,
north of
yeah.
Waconia.
Same one.
Yeah, I remember driving through there once. Okay, great. As far as the Office of Communications and Marketing, I'll just give you an overview of what we do. We are we handle the communications both internally and externally for the university. We write and release the press releases that you see in the paper or read or hear on the radio. We have a weekly radio show. I write a column for the Marshall paper. We handle all the social media in our office. We do an alumni magazine. We also serve as a conduit between the press and other areas of campus. Say, for instance, a member of the press is looking to do a story on immigration, and they're looking for perhaps a professor that has some area of expertise in that. They call our office. We suggest the professor, we line up the interview. We're basically the go-between between the press and the rest of the university. So we deal primarily with the local papers like your Tyler Tribute and Tracy, Marshall, of course. We don't get a whole lot of television action. Unfortunately, the only time we do is when things are bad. TV seems to show up only for the disasters. But yeah, we also have speeches and admissions pieces that go through our office that we proofread and polish up for them, and depending upon the audience that they're trying to reach. So we also handle about 90% of the photography on campus. Everybody likes their photos taken, so we've discovered that, and so we have about 8 student photographers that go to various events on campus and then post those photos primarily on our Facebook page, SMSU Today. I'm a one-man office. I do have a graduate assistant. Graduate assistants play a very key role at our university, especially up in athletics. But grad assistants get paid if you're a 9-month grad assistant, you get $8,000 for that academic year. If you're a full year GA, you get $12,000. That's your stipend. You get that on an every other week basis. Basically, that's your pay. And then the university covers your master's tuition costs as well. So you'll get your tuition, your master's degree free over a 2-year period, and then we pay you a little bit of money to help augment your rent and groceries and things like that. So we have one GA in our office, and I believe 8 student photographers. So, but yeah, as far as Robin we talked just a little bit. She said that you guys were talking about communication in general, and I've had kind of the unique perspective of communicating from a journalist's perspective, and now as a marketing perspective, and the two are quite different, actually. In my current position, I am trying to spread the good word about Southwest Minnesota State. You know, the student success stories, the success stories of our faculty and staff, new initiatives, new majors. New one this year that came on the books is agricultural education. Your ag teachers at high schools. That's a very rare degree in Minnesota. Up until we added it, the only school that offered that degree was the University of Minnesota. So we're really proud of that, and especially offering it out into a rural area. And but that's a degree where there's 4 jobs waiting for every person that graduates. So okay, that's a new degree. You know, that's something that we want to trumpet. We have a number of areas to do that on our main page of our website, smsu.edu, Facebook, SMSU Today, Twitter @SMSU Today. You know, your standard social media things. As far as the change in communication in my office, the biggest change has been just that, the social media aspect of it. When I came on board, that wasn't even on the radar, and now it's a good percentage of what we do. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Anybody have any? Yes, sir.
Was it easy to adjust from doing what you're doing before to, like, say, electronically computers?
It wasn't overly difficult. It was new. It was new to us. So much of what our office does, we didn't even touch when I started. Photography might be the best instance. We try to get to as many events as we can, because those are images that are used throughout campus on various publications and things like that. And we try to get to as many as we can. We found that, you know, everybody likes to see their photo, so we try and run as many of those as we can. But they're also used in admissions pieces and flyers for various offices and things like that. So it wasn't a drastic change. It was just reworking the percentage of what your duties are. You know, when I started, social media was nothing. It was 0% because we didn't do anything. And now, between myself and the grad assistant, that's probably 40%. You know, so. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Where do you see your company in 10 years?
Where do I see my company in 10
Do you
years?
mean the college, or do you mean his office?
Like your office?
I think our office is at the mercy of technology, just as, you know, as a office whose sole purpose is to communicate. I think we are at the mercy of those communication tools, and how they will change will thus force our hand as well. You know, SMSU is based on the changing demographics of rural Minnesota. You know, we have our challenges just because, you know, you can get all these projections just about changing rural Minnesota, but it is a fact that we're in a little bit of a trough now in terms of the number of graduating high school seniors, and we will be for about the next 7 years. We are doubly challenged in that, you know, Marshall's the big town in the middle of nowhere, you know. And if you're a Metro student and you're looking for a lot of action, you're probably not going to come to SMSU, are you? But, you know, we always, one thing I've noticed in doing my job and interviewing people who have attended the university, and especially recently as we've celebrating our 50th anniversary, there's common themes, common threads about the students. I remember Jacob Fall. You guys ever hear of Jacob Fall? Jacob Fall is the all-time leading scorer in Mustang basketball history. And he came from a town, a big town on the West Coast. His parents moved to Dawson, and he was miserable. Didn't like it. And he was off the radar screen totally to be recruited as a student athlete. Their section tournament, Dawson's section tournament, the later rounds were held at SMSU, and he caught fire. And he caught the attention of Tim Miles, who's now the University of Nebraska head coach. Tim saw the potential there, and we recently released a 50th anniversary book here just a couple days ago, and Jacob has a short essay in there where he talks about when being recruited and sitting down with Miles and telling him, this is too small for me, I don't like it, you know, I won't be comfortable here. He envisioned himself as a big city guy, just because that's where his roots were from. And it was so funny because he came to SMSU because he had a heart-to-heart with another student athlete who basically told him it is what you make it, you know. He married a volleyball player, Angie Fredrickson. They have 3 beautiful children, and he is an emerging community leader. SMSU, like every other college, it's not for everybody. It's all about fit, you know. But as far as the university goes, where the university's going to be in 10 years, you know, we hope to grow, but we have these demographic challenges. We have done very well lately with international students and our MBA program. We get about 60 MBA students each year from Taiwan. That we have an agreement with about 7 colleges over there. But yeah, I think every college's goal is to grow, and I see us probably growing our agricultural offerings, because we are in direct competition with for students and student athletes with South Dakota State to the west of us, just an hour, you know. So. But yeah, as far as our office goes, we'll change as communication technology changes. Yes?
How do you communicate with different groups of people?
You have to have an understanding of who you're talking to. For instance, the admissions pieces that come out of our admissions office are written in a particular way. We are going to launch a capital campaign here within the next year. A capital campaign is where we try and raise X million of dollars. So I'll be asked to write some stories, some pitches that will be given to some of the big shooters out there, the potential big donors, and that verbiage, that language will obviously be different. Our admissions people kind of have to walk a fine line because they are writing, trying to communicate with students like yourself at your age, but still maintain the interest of your parents as well. So that's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, just know your audience and understand that their interests and what you're trying to do don't always mesh. So you kind of have to really know who you're going after. Yes, ma'am.
How many hours do you work like a week?
It kind of varies due to the nature of the job and the big events that go on. We tend to have a really busy fall because we have Ag Bowl and homecoming and those types of events early on, like through mid-October. So you're looking at 55, 60 hours a week, and then it tends to ease off a little bit once you get into the routine of the academic year. But there's not a lot of fat on the bone in terms of the offices. So my office normally assists Kelly Loft in athletics for their major events. So that does tend to lengthen your week a little bit. No more than 60, and that's rare, but it does occur. January through March, usually 40-hour weeks, and then there's always the sprint to the end. So then you're looking 50, 55 hours. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
In college, what do you think was like the most valuable thing that you learned or advice that you got from your professors?
I get involved right away with groups and organizations that share common interests. Widen your circle of friends so that you come in contact with a number of types of individuals. That was a mistake I made when I was in high school. I should have had a broader circle of friends. I think one thing you're going to find, and you probably don't even know it yet, is that you always hear, networking, not what you know, who you know type of thing. It sounds so trite, and it sounds, you roll your eyes and you go, yeah, I've heard that. Nothing. If there's one thing in life that's true, that's true. Get involved. Get involved with that clubs and organizations, groups that you have a certain interest. You'll have a regional conference, you'll have a state conference, you'll have a national conference. Go to those conferences, network with these people, meet people within your interest areas. And that will do so much for you. I can't emphasize it enough. It's just, and you have no clue yet how important that's going to be to you. Quite a group.
I warned you. It's after lunch. They get tired.
It's those dunkers that did it. Yeah.
Have at it, guys. What do you want to know? There you go, Chloe.
Did you go to college for your career?
I did. I knew that some type of writing was what I wanted to pursue. It worked out that I said in the first class, you know, I was lucky enough to get into what I wanted to get into. I wish perhaps someone had talked to me a little bit earlier about the monetary compensation of a print journalist. The only thing worse is if you work for a radio.
Monetary compensation means how much you get paid. You don't get paid hardly at all as a journalist.
You do not, unless you get into management and, well, I kind of was in management. Unless you're a publisher, nobody wants those worries. But yeah, I was lucky enough. Do you guys go into school? Do you have a clear understanding of what you want to do as far as academically?
What you want to major in?
Yeah. What are you going to major in?
Special education.
Oh, special ed, good for you. Okay. And you don't know yet? You got 2 years to figure it out. You know? Yeah, you got 2 years to figure it out. And if you know now what you're doing, you're ahead of the game, because so many, I wish I had that percentage. There are so many college students that change majors somewhere along the line. And it could be just because you took a class during your general eds that piqued your interest. You have an advisor that steers you that way. You have a teacher in a general ed class that you really, really, really like, and you're kind of taking classes from that person and fall in love with that major. So there's, if you know what you're doing this early, you're way ahead of the game, and you're fortunate.
The unique feature of this graduating class, and there's about 1/3 of them not here, is that quite a few of them have taken college credits already as high school students.
College now?
Yep, college
Excellent.
now and some of the other programs. Raise your hand if you have already taken some college classes or are going to take some next semester.
Wow.
Yep. So
How many credits you got? How many credits you gonna graduate with?
you finished 7 credits last year.
Yeah, and yeah, somewhere near 20.
Do you? That's great. How about you guys at this table? How many credits you gonna graduate with?
I think it's 6, I think.
6?
I don't know, maybe I have 1 science and 2 math.
Okay. I interviewed doing a story on this Redwood River monitoring project that our environmental science professor Emily Deaver does. She has a student. She's taken PSEO courses through us and has been since the summer of her sophomore year. And she will graduate in May with 46 credits.
Oh.
Isn't it something? She's signed to play volleyball at Morris for 2 years, and then she's going to go somewhere else and finish out her volleyball eligibility while she gets her master's degree. But that's just mind-boggling. You know, that whole that whole PSEO, post-secondary enrollment option thing, that actually was legislation that was written by a state senator by the name of Gary DeCramer. He, from Ghent, he was the one who actually wrote that legislation and got that ball rolling. But as far as you as students and your parents, the pocketbooks of your parents, oh my goodness, what what a great thing that is. What a great opportunity. Yeah.
That's your cue to ask a question. Sorry, Jenny, did I cut you?
Where's the farthest you had to travel for your job?
I guess the furthest is Washington, D.C. Our Star of Minnesota Marching Band performed at the George Bush presidential inauguration. Most of my travel is in the Midwest. That was an extreme. I'd say the cities, Bemidji, you know, there's not an extreme amount of travel, but there's some. Yes?
While you were transitioning from high school to college, was journalism the only major you were thinking of, or did you have any other major?
You know, it was. Hated math, couldn't do it, didn't understand it. Yeah, I mean, it just didn't work up there. Kind of wish I would have taken more science courses just because of the technology advances so much, especially recently, and science plays such a big part of that. But yeah, no, that was kind of, it was what I was good at, and I liked writing, and I didn't know where it would take me. But yeah, that's what I wanted to do, and I've been lucky enough to be able to do that. Photography came around a little bit later, but that was something that was associated with my job, so, and I kind of liked it. So.
You want to tell them a little bit about your other interest you gained at college? Because it's a major that I doubt hardly any of them have heard of.
Oh, Huron College was a liberal arts institution located in Huron, South Dakota. It's closed its doors, and today it is a water park, believe it or not. But when I was there, they had a closed-off residence hall on the north end of campus, three-story building, and the college collaborated with the city to create a senior center there. And we had a young professor on campus by the name of Karen Horning. So she started a gerontology program there. Gerontology, the science, or not the science, the study of seniors. And so I got took a class from her and liked it. And so yeah, I got a minor in gerontology, which was kind of funky because it's kind of a hard academic area to find, to be honest, but they had it there. But no, it was an opportunity to, you know, interact with the seniors on some programming things, and took some trips with them and things like that, and I gained an interest. I think it helped me as a journalist because my favorite interviews now are with individuals, seniors, who have rich life experiences, and they have a story to tell, and I like to dig that story out. And I think that my association with gerontology at Huron College was a big source of that interest. You guys, you got the questions right in front of you. You just asked
them. One thing that we discuss as students, and especially as potential college students, is ethics in writing, and as a student, avoiding plagiarism. But what about ethics in journalism or ethics in promoting your business? What's allowed, what's not allowed? What would they have to watch out for if they wanted to, say, publish an article or something like that?
Well, I think you said the golden word, plagiarism. When I first came to Marshall, I had to fire a gal for plagiarism. She stole several paragraphs from a article that was originally published in The Land magazine. And I just happened to be reading it, and then a couple weeks later, here comes this story that she was assigned, and the light went off, and so you know, when I was a journalist, I was going after the story, and now that I'm a public relations person, you know, I am trying to shape the story, and so it's really two different sides of the same coin. And when I try and shape the story, you simply can't BS them. You still have to be honest with them. You have to be forthright. Bad things happen at Southwest Minnesota State that the press wants to know about. You have to be forthright with those that you're dealing with. We were talking in the previous class a little bit about how you need to develop relationships with the press. And you have to have a trust factor so that if I'm taken, I say, you're the editor of the Marshall paper, let's go out to lunch, you know? And we have a nice talk, we're off the record, I'm telling you things that you need to know about the story you're working on, but I'm not on the record. This is strictly for context, okay? And you can't quote me, but I am trying to help you shape the story so it's accurate, okay? There's a lot of that contextual conversation that happens between people in my position and the press. There's a lot of that goes on before you take your notebook out and say, okay, here we go, or you click the recorder. There's a lot of conversations that happen that I try and educate the press on a certain topic. I might try and, I'm not trying to persuade them, I'm trying to show them the facts from our perspective and what they need to know to accurately do their job. Not all, you know, it's just doctors are like journalists or any other professions. There's somebody that's first in the class and somebody that's last in the class. And the better journalists work at Minneapolis Star-Tribune, and the journalists that aren't the best do not. And you run into the full gamut of them. So that's why, from my perspective, I need to be an educator as well.
Do you think that's easier because you've been on the journalism end of that?
I do.
So you have a better understanding of what they need?
Right. I do think that's helpful because when they call me for information on a story, as a former journalist, I know exactly what they're looking for, and I know that we have 3 people on campus that can help, that can serve as spokesmen, and I can turn them on to, and so just being in the business helps, yeah.
I think for these students, we're in a digital world, and rather than the likelihood of sitting down with a journalist on this or that, you know, it'll happen with their small town paper, but they're putting themselves out there more with a social media presence, with Instagram, with Facebook for their older relatives, for Snapchat, whatever they happen to do, and it's just as important to be ethical or honest there and not misrepresent.
How many have gotten into trouble on social media in some fashion?
Somebody got mad at you,
Yeah.
even accused you of saying something
hands
and you
higher,
didn't
hands
mean
higher.
it that way. Yep.
So was it a poor decision on your part, or Or did somebody come after you, or what was it?
Apparently it's embarrassing.
Apparently it's an inside joke over here.
I ran into a student this summer who had been accepted to Michigan Business School, and he had posted some stuff on his online social media, and they asked him about it. They pulled him in for an interview and asked, is that something SMSU will do for like their student athletes or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The athletes are talked to about this very subject, and it's a subject that's very high on in our career services area. Students, that's kind of a clearinghouse of job opportunities and resume help, mock interviews, things like that, and the students go in there. That's one of the first things they tell them is cleanse your, because businesses do look at that more and more.
So if you're serious about getting some of those big scholarships,
Yeah, just
know that they
don't be-
will check you out.
Don't be silly. Would you care to share what happened to you?
No.
All right.
Enough said.
Okay. Well, thank you for having the courage to say you got in trouble.
We have about 5 minutes of class left. Any final questions for Jim? He has a lot of experience. Final questions.
If you had to choose a different career, would you change it?
No, I wouldn't. You know, I've had the opportunity to, you know, I'm dating myself a little bit, but when I graduated from, and this is how connections help you. I graduated from Huron College, and I sent a resume out with a former football coach who took a job at United States International in San Diego, California, and his friend was the sports information director out there, so he needed me part-timer, so I graduated from Huron College, and pretty soon I was covering the San Diego Clippers, Chargers, and the Padres. I covered Magic Johnson's first game as a professional. That's how old I am. And at the time, let me see, Joe Jellybean Bryant was a Clipper. So that's Kobe Bryant's father. But yeah, you know, sent a resume out, boom, 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 things happen, you know, that's an example of that. No, I wouldn't. It's, for me, it's been a rich profession, and rich, not monetarily, obviously, but it's allowed me a lot of unique experiences.
Final thoughts for this group of kids.
Well, you're seniors, so you obviously know everything. No, it's great that you're going on to school. I wish you a lot of success in your academic pursuits. It's just such a fun ride, those 4 years, and try and stay out of trouble, too. You tend to get into a little bit of trouble, you especially.
Thank you.